Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The previous lesson we had finished off with Bab al-Hajr. Inshallah, in this lesson we're going over Bab al-Ijara. Okay. Ijara is to do with rentals. Okay. The word Ijara literally means rentals. The word Ajir is somebody who's working for a wage. Mustajir, somebody who is renting. Okay. What is the concept of Ijara? What is the concept of rent? Basically, you need some sort of benefit from somebody else and you're paying a price for it. Okay. For example, let's say this is the benefit. Okay. All what we've taken so far, asset, benefit, whatever it may be, we've been talking about buying and selling where ownership changes. Okay. And that is under bay' for buying and selling. That's finished. Then there's a time where the ownership doesn't change, but permission is given to a person to use an asset or to get a service from somebody else at a price. Okay. This is called ijara or rentals. And at times, you may get something. So, for example, a book, and the person doesn't charge you for it. They lend it to you. And this comes under ariyah. Ain, alif, ra, ya, and ta. Ariyah. This will come later on. Why do they mention it? They mention these rulings in details because just in case, if a person, for example, gave you his car to borrow and you're using it, you're not paying anything. But if something had to happen, who's responsible for the damage, etc.? So here we're talking about rentals. Now, for your contract of rent to be correct, or before we get there, when you're renting, okay, when you're renting, generally, you're renting one of two things. You're either getting an asset to use, something you can touch and use it, okay, or you're getting a service. So, for example, someone is doing something for you. So, if you had to differentiate, let's say you don't have a car, you want to hire a car, you want to rent a car. It comes under this category. You're paying in order to benefit from this asset, this car. You can touch the car, it's tangible. And then sometimes you pay for a service. This also comes under rental. So when you hire somebody, for example, to build a wall for you or to sew a piece of clothing for you, you don't own the person, but you're hiring them to do a job, and this will come. From the conditions of this contract of rent to be correct, there's a few, but the main thing is number one, the manfa'ah or whatever you want to benefit should be known. Okay. So let's say a person can't come to you and say, I'm renting from you, here's the money. We have to know what exactly are they renting. So, for example, I'm renting your house that's on the first street, for example, or your car that's like this, or I am hiring you to sew me one thobe. Here, what's being agreed upon is known. The benefit is known. So that's number one. So a person can't go to the tailor, for example, and tell him, I'm hiring you, and stop there. Hiring you to do what? Paying you to do what? To sew me 3 thobes, for example, which are my size. So we have to know what we agreeing on. And number two is we have to agree a price. What are we going to pay? Ujra ma'luma. So for example, to build my house, how much am I going to pay you? Or if you're renting my car, how much are you going to pay me? So these are two main conditions you need to know. What are we renting? What are we benefiting? And how much are we paying? Okay. And then Let's come here. When you rent or when you under rentals, when you're paying for a service and when you're paying for a service and when you're getting an asset, here this is connected to time. Okay, are you renting my house for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 1 month? This is connected to time generally. And as for a service, this is connected to delivery or work. So you paying the tailor, for example, to sew you a thobe. How do we process that? When he delivers. When does he get paid? When he delivers, according to your agreement. So differentiate between the two. One is connected to time and the other is connected to delivery. Service connected to delivery. So for example, in those places where you order food online, okay, the food is separate and then you're paying a delivery fee. What are you doing? You're hiring somebody to come and deliver your food to you or your groceries to you. What are you paying him for? You're paying for the delivery. What's that connected to? When he delivers the goods is when you pay. It's not connected to his time. So notice how the first category, you have to do something or it's connected to time, and the second is generally connected to deliverability. However, and this is where we'll come to the different types of workers. Okay. So here, number one, assets. We're speaking about cars and houses and properties and animals and that type of thing. When it comes to a service, there's one of two workers or one of two types of people who are working. Either, number one, they call him Ajir Mushtarak. Mushtarak means that he is shared, okay, i.e., he doesn't work only for you. So if you have a person, for example, who has a tailor shop who's sewing thobes, you walk in, he'll sew a thobe for you, he'll sew a thobe for me, for somebody else, anybody else. Here, uh, he is connected, or he's not owned by you, and the only time he's paid, or he doesn't work only for you, the only time he's paid or he deserves his ujra is when he finishes the job. Okay, so here is all connected to finishing. And the second type of worker is somebody who works only for you. Okay, somebody who works only for you. I'll put here an E for exclusive. And this person is paid according to time. So for example, you've hired somebody for a week or a month or a year. Here you're paying their wage accordingly. Now, why do they mention this? Because they've got a problem when it comes to Baman. Baman means if something had to go wrong, something had to break, are they responsible or they're not? So, for example, you differentiate between the two. The one is somebody who's sewing your thobe, the tailor. Let's say he, uh, after you paid him or you started off, or even if you never pay him, he's agreed on giving you your thobe, and it gets stolen, or his place is burnt down, or whatever it may be. Is he responsible? Does he have to get another thobe for you or not? Or do we say that due to natural disaster, natural calamity, you both lost? In the Hanafi madhab, they have a difference of opinion. They say, هل الأجير المشترك يضمن أو لا يضمن? Is this person responsible, held liable or not if something had to happen, whether it's in his control or not? Generally, you find that people lean towards him being responsible. Why? It happened under his watch. So, for example, let's say you paid somebody to sew you a thobe. After he sewed the thobe, he left it, and people came to rob his shop, and they stole your thobe with it. Here we'll say, I can tell there's difference of opinion, but here we'll say that he is responsible, okay, because he's got money and He's paid according to deliverability. There is another opinion. Second is somebody who's working for you specifically, uniquely for time. If they had to do something and something had to break, I give you an example. Let's say they're using the computer at your workplace. And as they're using the computer and the printer, eventually the printer is no longer working. Is this employee responsible when it comes to that printer or not? Here we'll say, if he was careless and clumsy, yes, he is responsible. But if he wasn't careless and clumsy, he is not responsible as long as it was with your permission. Notice the difference. This guy, for example, let's say his computer had to stop working. He can't come and ask you, the client, to say, pay me money because I can't do your thobe even though I took rent money because my computer got stolen. All the measurements, I can't measure them. No, he has to deliver. Because this person here is working according to time. And you find there's advantages and disadvantages for both when you look at practical and real life, as well as when you look at the masail. You find that there's some things which are for this one, some things tougher and against, as well as the other. Inshallah, in the next lesson, we'll go through the actual contract, what breaks the rental agreement. Also, when it comes to rental, if a person specifies, for example, to say, I'm renting my car to you specifically. If you had to allow somebody else to use it, you're not supposed to. And if they had to, let's say you had to crash, or that person had to crash here, you will be responsible in order to pay for that damage. It's not according to the owner. Also, the owner can specify what or who can use the asset that's going to be rented in general. So and we go according to the norm of the people. So, for example, if you've got a house with 3 rooms, okay, and the owner tells you no subletting, then here we'll tell you that you're not allowed to sublet. Sublet means you renting this house here with 3 rooms, and for let's say 300, and then you call new tenants, 3 other tenants, and you tell them pay me 150 each, so you're making 450. If the owner said no, you can't. If you want to do it, you ask for permission. Also, when you're renting an item, at times they may limit you to what you can use or what you can't. Okay, so let's say, for example, you got a forklift. You know, in the factories they use the crane or the lift, and it's got a limit on it, a weight limit. Here, if you had to exceed that weight limit and had to break, you are responsible to pay. However, if you didn't, then there's no fault of yours. Also, if they tell you that you can use it to pick up your machinery and your goods, but don't use it for livestock or feed, for example, here you're not allowed to use it for livestock and feed. So we go according to what's agreed in the contract. And inshallah, we'll carry on next week, Monday. When it comes to Bulugh al-Maram, I think we're on the 10th or 11th hadith. We stopped where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Anas radiallahu anhu, says, one day we were with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and an A'rabi, a Bedouin Arab man, came. He says, جاء أعرابي فبال في طائفة من المسجد. He urinated in the corner of the masjid. So the people were upset. فزجره الناس. They started shouting and scolding this A'rabi or this Bedouin. Says فنهاهم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم prevented them from scolding him. He said, don't scold him, leave him, let him finish. He says, after he finished, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم called for some water and it was poured over it. We're taking Kitab al-Tahara. The reason why Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentions this hadith is to show how to cleanse urine if it had to fall onto the floor. Okay, how to cleanse something that's affected with urine. And there's many masail that we can benefit from this hadith. First is, he says, جاء أعرابي. It says a Bedouin man came to the Messenger of Allah. Bedouins were generally considered people from the rural areas. Okay. And the opposite of that are those who lived in the cities. And generally, up to today, especially if you go to rural areas, you find those who live in the cities are generally more educated. They have different style and understanding when it comes to living. And in those days, it was known that the Bedouins were not the most intelligent and well-mannered people. So he says, جاء أعرابي. They were known to have less knowledge. He says, then he urinated in the corner of the masjid. فبال في طائفة من المسجد. So the people became upset and they started scolding him. And this shows you that human nature, when a person sees something that's wrong, they generally get cross, they get uptight, or they get angry, especially if the sanctity of the masjid is violated. He says, فَنَهَاهُمُ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم told them, don't get upset, don't get angry. Imagine somebody urinating in the masjid and the Sahaba want to stop him. The Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم says, leave him. فَزَجَرَهُ النَّاسِ فَنَهَاهُمُ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He says, after he finished, فَلَمَّا قَضَى بَوْلَهُ. After he finished, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم called a group of people, or he called for some water, and the water was poured over this urine. Look at the way the Messenger ﷺ taught. Look at how kind and lenient he was. A problem which we perceive to be major, and it is an issue. However, look at how he handled it. He told the people to calm down. Also, when it comes to urine, if it had to fall onto a place, the ulama mentioned, if it had to fall onto a place, it's cleansed by pouring water over it. Now here there's two main masail, the books of fiqh. First is, if a place is affected by najasa, impurity, the majority opinion says that you have to use water to cleanse it, okay? Why? They go according to this hadith. They say you have to use water to cleanse it. And they say the Messenger ﷺ poured water on it. Hanafi madhab have an opinion to say that you can use water, or if najasa had to dry such that you don't see any remnants of it, it will also be considered clean. Okay? And they say, or they use the hadith where it's, or the evidence is that it's not compulsory for you to use water to clean najasa. It can be removed with anything. And number two is, there's hadith which mentioned that the masjid of the Messenger ﷺ, it was opened. There was places where it had like a roofing, and there was places which were open, and the dogs used to enter into it. And they would urinate and they would go through and out. And they said that because of this, if it was known the dogs would urinate, it means they should have washed the sand and the floor every time. However, they didn't. Why? Because the najasa would dry. That's one of the reasons. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is of this opinion, meaning the Hanafi school's opinion. He agrees with them here. He says that najasa, if it had to dry out and you got no remnants of it, the place becomes clean. Also, when cleansing, let's say you've got urine or stool, you cleanse or you pour water, and you have to make sure that the najasa itself, they call it jirman najasa, which is basically the body of this impurity is removed. Or let's say, for example, it's stool. It has to be removed, and then you use water such that there's nothing remaining of it behind, and you wash until it's clean. So that's number two. And then when you look at this hadith itself, you find that there's a major principle that's taken from it. Scholars say that if there's two mafsadas, two evils, two vices, and you can only get by carrying out or by letting one of the vices slip, you let the lesser of the two evils pass. And they use this hadith because they say for a person to urinate in the masjid is a major sin. Okay? especially knowingly. It's a sin, it's a problem. And the fact that this man is doing it in the masjid is a problem. However, they're saying that the fact that the Messenger ﷺ let him carry on with this vice, some mention, is because he was trying to prevent an even bigger evil from happening. If they had to stop him, for example, uh, in all the commotion, his najasa may spread further. That's one of the reasons. Second reason is health wise, if you cut off a person in the middle of urinating, it affects a person. And they mention other reasons. So they say the fact that this Bedouin person was, uh, or it was looked over that he was urinating in the masjid, which is a vice. This was in order to prevent an even bigger vice or evil. And this is a rule derived from this hadith. And the hadith carries on. Eventually, when this man finished urinating, came and he said, "Oh Allah, forgive me and forgive Muhammad and not anybody else." Why? Because everybody else was upset and they wanted to get to him, maybe probably even hit him, except the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Messenger of Allah tells him, "قد حجرت واسعا," meaning something that's very broad. The mercy of Allah, you've made it very narrow. And this shows you it's not about how much knowledge you have or how much you've memorized or whatever it may be. People take from you and learn from you when you are kind and when you have rahmah and when you have mercy. And if you look, there's a lot of verses in the Quran where Allah speaks about mercy even before knowledge. Speaking about Musa alayhi salam and Khadir or Khidr alayhi salam at the end of Surah Kahf. Allah says, فوجد عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا. They found Khidr or Khadir, servant of ours. He was firstly given what? He was firstly given mercy. آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما. And then Allah mentions the knowledge he was given. There's many verses in the Quran where Allah speaks about rahmah first before anything